This video covers using the Create Expectations notebook to cover creating our first expectation suite tailored specifically to the example Dickens data project that we've been working in. After having completed the Great Expectations init command, we have our Great Expectations directory as a part of our project, as well as the result of the profiler, including both the expectation suite that it created and its first validation run. We also have the result of having built the first batch of data documentation from those profile outputs. Now that we're ready to go ahead and create our expectations, let's start up a Jupyter notebook where we'll be working and navigate to the Great Expectations directory and this Create Expectations placeholder notebook that we've created. Of course, once you build expectations, you'll most likely want to have your custom notebook committed separately as a part of your project somewhere else. So we'll import the base library that we have here, and we're already in this video. Let's go ahead and get our data context object and take a look at the data assets that are available. Now we have, just like we created after our initialization, this three-part name system, including the data source, the generator name, and the generator asset. Altogether, those are the data asset. So we'll go ahead and get a batch of this Notable Works by Charles Dickens data. And this time, instead of having the expectation suite called my or basic dataset profiler, this will be my suite of data. Now we can take a look at what we have here. It's a pretty simple data set consisting of the title, the year that the book or article was completed, and the type of publication. We can take a look here at the specific batch keyword arguments that are associated with identifying this particular batch of data. And based on the fact that we're using the subdir reader generator, that's just going to consist of a single path as well as the timestamp that the generator took a look at the file in order to generate those expectations, or excuse me, to generate that batch of data. The authoring of expectations at this point is as simple as declaring the expectation on the data frame that we're working with, or the data set that we're working with, and getting immediate feedback about that expectation. So we'll first just say, let's expect that the first column, in our case the title column, will always be present. Now, when we're authoring expectations, it's useful both to draw on information from the data set itself, as well as information that we have as subject matter experts based on our understanding of what the data is designed to describe. Since Charles Dickens is now deceased, of course, we wouldn't expect that any new books would be completed by him. So let's build an expectation around this year completed column. We can do that by just simply declaring it directly. And as we type, tab completion is extremely useful to be able to see the suite of expectations that are available. In our case, we're going to say expect column values to be between. And we're going to make this expectation about the year completed column. And we'll say that, let's suppose that we think that Dickens probably wrote between about 1835 and 18. Let's be, overly cautious here and say 1860. Now, when we write this expectation, what we find is, well, that it doesn't match the data that we observed because it's a little bit too restrictive. And we already have records showing publications as late as 1870. So let's update our expectation while we go. Now that that expectation is true, it will by default be saved in the resulting expectation suite. So expectations that have been evaluated to false by default are not a part of the suite that's saved by the data context, although you can specify them by adding a flag. Let's perhaps add another expectation. We might, for example, expect that Dickens never wrote the same book twice. So we can add that by saying expect column values to be distinct. Or in less SQL terms. And we'll put that on the title column. And in our case, that is also true. And we can continue using this process to add more expectations. Now, inside the context, let's do a couple of different things. First, let's just take a look at what the expectation suite that we've just created is. Notice that the expectation suite that we're pulling does not include the result format keyword arguments. That's because in general during validation, you'll want to specify the result format level appropriate for the specific environment that you're running in. But so we have these three expectations. They expect column values to not be null on the title column, expect column values to be unique on the title column, and expect column values to be between 1835 and 1870 on the year completed column. Now that we have authored those expectations and taken a look at it, we can just save that same suite, and the data context will put the suite now available to us into our folder. So let's go ahead and close that Jupyter Notebook and take a look at the directory that we now have available to us, or that reflects the latest work. So now, in addition to the basic dataset profiler expectation suite, we have a new expectation suite, mysuite.json. And if we were to take a look at what's in there, what we'll see is that it reflects those three expectations that we just observed.